Hi, this is Bill Chan with 5 Elements of Fulfilling Life. And today I want to talk to you about the difference between optimists and pessimists. Now, according to research, the optimists are generally more successful, more productive, they lead a happier life, they have happier marriages, and generally they live a lot longer. Most of the time, they're more immune to both physical and psychological illness as well. Things like depression. In fact, depression is linked a lot to pessimism. They are more immune to heart disease and a lot of physical chronic illness as well. Now, according to Dr. Martin Seligman, about 20% of us are born just more optimistic, and the other 20% are more on the extreme pessimists. They're born that way. Now, the rest of us are somewhere in between. So we're neither pessimists all the time, nor optimistic all the time. So we're in between. Certain times we're more optimistic, at other times we're more pessimistic. Now, if we're swinging on the lower end of optimism, we're more toward the pessimists. If we want to, actually, we can learn to be more optimistic. According to Martin Seligman, these skills can be transferred, which is a good news. He actually did a survey once, a research once, where he puts these dogs in a wire cage. And in the wire cage, he would run electricities in there from time to time. And when he ran these electricities all over the cage, no matter where the dogs run, they would still be electrocuted, right? They would not electrocuted, but they would be shot, right? They would be shot. And so there's no escape. After a while, these dogs learn that, hey, no matter what I do, I'm going to be shot anyway. So they just lay there and take the shot, okay? Then he puts these dogs and a bunch of dogs that had never experienced the electric shots, and they put them in the same cage. In half the cage, he ran electric shots, and the other half he didn't. So he put both dogs in there, and as soon as the electric shots goes on, you see these control dogs that had never been in any environments like this before. They went right to the other side of the cage to avoid being shot. Yet the other dogs, they just lay there, even though they seen their peers jump over to the other side and avoid the shots. They wouldn't do it. They would just lay there and take the shots anyways. So Martin Seligman coined this as being learned helplessness. And at the same time, he found that there are 30% of the dogs, no matter how much they've been in these adverse environments, they would still run around anyways to avoid the shots. So these are more optimistic dogs, and they actually will try to look for escaping routes. And when he did this experiment with humans, he found that the humans are the same way. He used loud noises, not electric shots. And he noticed that some humans, no matter what the situation is, they're still looking for stop buttons to stop the loud noises, whereas most of the humans, they would actually spare the loud noises. They would just learn that if they couldn't control the environment, they would just give up. Okay, these are learned helplessness. So he was looking at what makes these two groups different, right? And he found that the way of thinking actually are quite different from these two groups. And he used this formula called the ABCDE formula. So A stands for adversity. When bad things happen, how would the optimist thinking different from the pessimist, right? The optimist would say, well, bad things is only a one-time event, so it's temporary. And hey, maybe it's not my fault, right? Okay, it may be other circumstances or events that cause this this adversity to happen. So it may or may not even be my fault. And then they will say, is it under my control to overcome this situation? Yeah, if it is, hey, then I would go ahead and do something different next time to change the event. So they're looking at the event, not taking complete ownership of it. They're looking at it as a temporary event, one-time event, and they're looking at it, hey, maybe it's other people's fault as well. It's not just all my fault. Whereas the pessimist will take all the blames internally. They say, hey, this must be my fault. It's my bad luck. I'm just not cut out for this, right? And they will say, hey, this always happened to me. They look at the event as global, not temporary. So there's no avoiding it, right? It's always like this for me. So in essence, the pessimists are saying there's nothing they can do about it, right? They are the cause of bad luck. Okay, so that's the A and the B, the belief. So as a consequence, the optimist will say, well, I could do something about it. So I would go change the event. So the consequence is they work harder, they'll try different routes, and they'll try to change the event. Whereas the pessimists will say, oh, no, well, it's bad and I won't do anything about it from now on. So I'll just later and take the bad luck next time, right? This time. So because they're not exerting any efforts, the luck is not going to change. So what Martin Seligman suggests is like the D. Okay, the D is disputing with themselves. Hey, instead of laying over and just take the bad luck, they could dispute with themselves. Hey, have I ever want to cause situations like this that I overcome? Maybe yes. Maybe in my high school I did something, right? Maybe in my college through my perseverance and hard work, a course that I thought was totally difficult, I had overcome that and got a B out of it. Okay, so it wasn't that bad after all. And because they're disputing it, their execution is going to be different. Instead of just laying over and take it as is, they would then say, hey, maybe there's something I can do about it. I'll go out there and change the situation. I will go out and execute. So my execution will be different, right? In that sense, they have better chance of overcoming the obstacle and change the event. So execution is the key. Now, what Martin Seligman says, this is all in the mind. So you can change the way you think, right? If you're pessimist, you can become more optimist. And when you become more optimistic in your way of thinking, remember to dispute with yourself. If you have this inner critic, okay, that keep coming up and say, you can't do it, you're not good enough, you dispute. You say, hey, look, I have done this before and I know I can overcome it. Here's my evidence, right? Pull out your evidence. If you can't think of any, ask your friends. Hey, tell me some of my strength. Tell me what I'm good at, okay? And then use that to dispute with your inner critic. And lastly, do something. That's the critical part. You have to change your behavior. You can't just sit around and hope for the sky to part, right? And things to happen. You have to go out there and change the events and go out there and work harder, study harder, and maybe exert more effort in this activity. Okay, maybe analyze things more. Maybe change your route of doing things. Now, that is the key, because when you change your behaviors, when you learn, when you work harder, when you stop the old way of thinking, being more creative, using more ways, more innovative ways of doing things, hey, events could change. Then you might have a victory in your hands. So stop complaining and start doing something to change your life and be more optimistic. And when you become more optimistic, time and time again, your way of thinking will switch. And now you're going to be thinking like an optimistic person. You might not even have to argue with yourself, dispute. You might be able to convert your thinking right away and say, hey, look, for every adversity, there's a sea of equal and opposite benefit. Maybe I should look for the benefit in that situation. And that could change the tide of events completely. Okay. So I hope that's helpful for you, and hope you will be able to apply this next time you run into any obstacles or challenges in your life.